All right, it's 7 a.m. I think we will start. You're welcome to the call, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Precious Babra, and I am going to be presenting today. I'm super excited, and I hope you are as well. I hope God is keeping you well. We'll start with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your word toward us, for your promises toward us. We thank you for life. We thank you for cover, for protection, that we have another bright day to take your territory, another day to be ambassadors of your kingdom. Lord, I pray that even as we go about your business today, you'll be the God of our businesses. You'll be our God and Father. You continue to love on us, shield us, give us wisdom that we always desire. And I pray for this call that may your wisdom flow, that will help us in our businesses. In Jesus' name we've prayed. Amen. Amen. All right. If at all you can't hear me in any way, please let me know. I'm going to be sharing about Candour in organizations. About 2-3 weeks ago, I was reading a book, Winning by Jack Welch, and this was, one of the things that I thought would be important for me to share with the rest of the business leaders. So our topic today is Candour. And I will start by defining what it is and then asking 2 questions, and then we can proceed. So Candour is defined as the quality of being open, honest, and sincere. When you have a culture of Candour in your organization, it means that people, both the leaders and the people that are led, everyone on the team, are able and willing to be open, to be honest, and to be sincere with the way they share their feedback, with the way they approach the rest of the team members, with the way they openly communicate. So that's Candour. Candour, I think, has more to do with how vulnerable people are willing to go, how honest people are willing to go, how very sincere people are willing to go in an organization. And it is very important that we have this culture in our organizations, because when you don't have a culture of Candour, you're literally failing in a way. And I'm going to share a story, a real life story that happened recently at work as a result of lack of Candour. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions before we proceed. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Candour in your business, the aspect of Candour in your business? You can type on the chat or you can say the number. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Candour in your business? And why? Okay, Michael says 3. Mr. Munira says 7. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll go with those for now because of time. Michael, I'm curious to hear why it is 3.
Thank you. Let me just mention my video. So yes, I said 3 because, okay, for my own business, once you don't ask someone, then they will not really open up, and the honesty won't be there. So that's why I'm saying that, but I'm seeing someone is even typing a -1. So
all right, thank you for sharing, Michael. Director, why 7?
We've recently discovered that Candour is a real game changer. And so we have had to instill it and install it by force or by fire. You can cry, we will not budge, but we will say it the way it is until you understand that where we're coming from is a good place.
Awesome. So it had to take intentionality.
I would say we've been like at maybe 4.5. We've just grown like in the recent, to be able to say it the way it is.
Okay.
And of course, the tendency is to backslide back to where it was, but you kick and push people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So what I'm hearing from you is that it has had to take too much intentionality for it to happen. It just didn't happen, right? Okay,
No.
Bishop Sidi, why -1? Bishop,
If I knew I was going to, respond, I would not have typed -1. But anyway, I think for us it's kind of stems from the leader. Is that I'm not that person to. I used to be very weak on challenge. I'm not that kind of person to approach. And so we just look at people with Musungu, and I look at you and I'm like, hey, I would pray your way out of the business, or I'd pray you out of my life. But I think it's we have improved. I think we were maybe -5. I would just want to smile. Then we had started doing it through a rhythm whereby we would set a date and just find a way of talking, because it's not something that comes naturally for some of us.
Yes.
But I think we have kind of slowed down on that rhythm. First, what was helping us was the rhythm. So I think we'd probably say -10, but maybe we have improved. And okay, maybe -1 is harsh. I would give myself 1.5.
Okay, thank you so much for being honest. I'm going to ask one more question and maybe hear from one or two people, and then we continue. Why do you think that for many organizations, the aspect of Candour is usually lacking? Because when you ask many people, honestly, they don't have this aspect. Why? What are some of the key reasons why it's difficult? It's not a hard thing to do, but it's difficult somehow.
Maybe I can go first there.
Yes, please. Yes, Bishop.
I think it's how we've been raised. It's the lies that we have been told as children, or maybe I'll speak from experience, the way that we have been raised, that showing honor or respect is you don't speak bad, you don't speak back, you have to guma when you're a leader. And it's even worse if you've been raised in a bit of a political setting whereby you smile at everyone, even your enemies, and maybe you strategize behind their back. While also when you go to some areas, like in now dealing with different nationalities, is when I get to realize, okay, we have a problem, because some people have no problem saying something as is. Yeah. But for most of us and our cultures, especially in Uganda, we have been taught to be, we call it nice, but we have been taught to be pretentious. And so we're people who speak with words and never with actions. So now changing that culture from within first as a leader to try and get it and trying to say that there's nothing bad with assuring someone or how they take it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bishop. We'll hear from Jerome and then we'll continue. Jerome, you'll be the last one on this one.
Okay. I'll say two things. I have traveled a bit, but also I've had friends who have come around from other countries, and they always say that, Ugandans, we are funny. We are funny. You'll be asked something, they say, how do I look? Okay. And you say, you look okay. You look fine. You're good. But deep down, you know what, actually, you look bad. You look bad. So we are not open people. I think we fear to offend people with the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how I put it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I totally agree with you. So now I'm going to share my discussion today will be around how we can build a culture of Candour and why. Some of the reasons why you need to build a culture of Candour in your organization is, one, when you maintain transparency in your organization, you maximize resources. In cultures where Candour has been intentionally groomed and nurtured, people are more effective because then they receive feedback easily, they give feedback easily, they know what to improve always, and they feel safe and secure, and they trust each other because they know if I do something fake, someone is going to approach me and tell me. If I if I do something nice, someone is going to approach me and appreciate me. So there is that beauty about candor that causes people to work better, work harder, be more effective. So you're able to maximize your resources. Leaders who exhibit candor are more effective leaders. Why? Because they know their people so well. They approach them well, they maximize them well, so they are more effective in how they lead. Candor allows you to solve problems early enough. Candor is, one of the aspects of candor is that feedback is given in a timely manner. If someone has been behaving a certain way and you keep postponing a difficult conversation, what you're postponing are problems. So candor allows you to solve problems much earlier than they should last. If there is a problem that could have exploded because you didn't speak about it, then you're able to curb that. Honest feedback improves employee engagement and reduces risks of detachment. In environments where there is no candor, people are actually detached. You may not see it, or you may actually see it, but people are usually detached. And so you know how detached people behave. They will do the basic minimum, really. They won't give you much more than you expect, or even the expectation will not be met. So if you build a culture of candor where people are able to share honest feedback, and it's both upward, and downward. People should be able to approach you as a leader and tell you what's happening, or you as a leader should be able to approach the people and tell them what's happening, or peer-to-peer, kind of candor. I've found that in some organizations, the candor is between peers, some groups of people, but not upward and neither downward. Either way, it doesn't help. That becomes like gossip. So it has to be all around candor where, people feel safe and safe enough to share their feedback whenever it comes up. So those are the key reasons why I think that it's important for every organization to nurture that culture. Why staff members have very great ideas and they're always eager to contribute, as long as they know that, their contributions will not be criminalized or will not be judged. So how often do you allow for that to happen? How often do you allow for people to share and maximize their ideas in your organization? How easy is it for you? These are some of the questions that you can take home. How easy is it for you to share knowledge with people, to share mistakes, to share your struggles, to share genuine feedback as a leader? Because like someone said, if the leaders don't embrace the aspect of candor, the rest of the teams are likely not going to embrace it. What's the culture around genuine feedback? Do you reward genuine feedback? Do you genuinely hear or listen to genuine feedback? Or is it criticized? The people who have tried to come up and share feedback have been criminalized or criticized for the feedback. People don't want to risk so much being so open or perceived as people who will be criticized. So they would rather keep quiet if they know that they're going to be criticized, or they don't want to even maybe hurt feelings. Like Bishop Sidi was saying, like we've grown up in environments where you don't want to hurt people. So instead of giving them feedback, you would rather play it safe. And that is not safe at all. So I said I would share with you a story. Recently at work, we had a very good HR who honestly had been serving for quite a number of years. And, again, the aspect of candor was a bit lacking, upward, downward, or downward, upward. So we had a lot of peer-to-peer candor where we would share and understand what was happening. And so it reached a point where she needed to leave, again, because of the feelings of insecurity around the place and around her work. So she puts in her resignation and had to leave. And when good people leave, it's when you actually start to think that this is a serious problem. Now we've been looking for a new HR and she's coming on board, but we've lost a resource out of the lack of candor. And so one of the things that happened is when she was leaving, the feedback that she gave was that she had gotten a better opportunity. It had nothing to do with the organization and stuff like that. But I had read about candor, so I told her, it's very important that you give genuine feedback now than ever, so that then it's not a culture that we keep transferring to the rest of the people, because then you keep losing good people because there is no open communication around what's hurting the people or what's not working, or when what is working is happening, it's not appreciated. So there is like a clause in where people feel like they're not trusted. So eventually, anyway, she gives the feedback, and honestly, from that time, I've seen lots of progress in how people management is happening, and it's a beautiful story to see and learn from. So we've lost a resource because, and the largest part is because there was always not enough candour to sustain conversations, to sustain, you know, what was happening and what was not happening. So it was as if in the dark, and, you know, we have to bear the consequences of that. So engage your staff members, engage people, encourage the culture of honest feedback sharing. It can be in a group, it can be personal, it can be, and at first it's difficult. It takes a lot of consistency, it takes a lot of effort. But once people grasp it, it becomes a culture that people embrace, where you know that if someone approaches you and gives you feedback, it's not in any way on bad intentions. They just want to improve you, or they just want to improve, you know, and it starts with us. So I'm going to share a few practical things that we can do, and then we will allow for some feedback, maybe for the last few minutes. So some of the things that I thought would be important to highlight. One, if to create a culture of candour, learn to criticize the action, the work, and not necessarily the individual. Sometimes the way we give feedback is more attacking the person than it is attacking the actions that they've done. So if you have a way in which you can avoid attacking the individual when you're giving negative feedback, that would be a good thing to start with, you know, and to let them know that it's not them that necessarily are bad people, but the kind of action they've done or the kind of work they've done is what is not allowed, or it's what is not good, and this is how it can be improved, etc. Give feedback as soon as possible. Don't wait for forever to give feedback because you're fearing the consequences. The culture of candour is built on timely feedback. So when something happens, find a good moment, give the feedback, and then allow that to also happen with the rest of the people. Feedback should focus, I've already said that feedback should focus on action that can be taken next. For example, if you're giving someone negative feedback, also give them some, you know, some of the actions that they can take, constructive suggestions on what they can do to improve. Setting specific and measurable short-term goals can be helpful. You know, if someone is not maybe, sorry, I'm focusing more on the negative feedback because that's where most people find issues with candour. But also candour is on the positive side of things, you know, just giving feedback if someone has done well. But for these particular points, it's when you're in a position where you have to give negative feedback, be able to give someone specific and measurable short-term goals that can be helpful to them. Allow to have uncomfortable conversations. This was always difficult for me, you know. I would have to first pray, first think, first internalize before that conversation can happen. I have learned that as a leader, you cannot avoid difficult conversations. You cannot avoid uncomfortable conversations. And so even as you train yourself to have those with the people that you lead, you have to train the people to be able to have those conversations with the rest of the people, have the uncomfortable conversations without making them necessarily dramatic, that are avoidable in the future. Yeah, and freely share your mistakes. Sometimes the people are not open enough to share their own mistakes because everything around you seems to be perfect. You'd never have any mistakes around you as a leader. So freely share your mistakes that people can learn from. When people know that you're open with your own struggles and mistakes, they are able to open up about their own mistakes and struggles. It takes commitment, it takes consistency, it takes hard work, but the results are amazing. You will have a healthy and a supportive business environment around you for growth. Yeah, at the end of the day, again, like I said, the leaders, we are the role models. We are the role models. We can't run away from that. It's a 360 kind of aspect, but we portray it. People see us do it, and then they're also able to do it. As a leader, you admit your own errors. You behave as if the same way you would want other people to behave. You look out for counter arguments. People who are argumentative are not bad people. They are actually good people to have, as long as it's well tamed. So don't only allow people who are quiet in meetings and they never want to say anything. Allow for people to freely share. Force it, like director said, until people are able to learn. That feedback is very important. In meetings, encourage everyone to talk. People who go for meetings and keep quiet, just make it as uncomfortable as possible so that everyone knows that it's important when they go for meetings to speak and to talk, because everyone's feedback is important. Some of the aspects where Candour has suffered, in times when the leader does not listen, maybe someone is trying to tell you something and you're counter talking about it or giving your defense, Candour will not be nurtured in that kind of environment. So as a leader, you have to learn to listen to the people when they speak and pick out what you need to pick and give the right feedback in the right way. Yeah, you have to listen. When the team doesn't speak up, someone mentioned that earlier when we started, when the team doesn't speak up, it means that there is lack of candor. And it's again us as leaders to not allow that culture where people don't speak. People should be able to speak. I always tell my team that when we have like meetings and someone is quiet, and like I am raising leaders, and leaders speak. So in this meeting, everyone will speak. So what's your name? Because what's on your mind is very important. We need to be able to hear it. So everyone has to speak in every meeting, as long as, it's the kind of meeting where we are probably brainstorming or we are talking about something where feedback is needed. Everyone must speak. If the issues raised are never solved, Candour suffers. So the issues that are raised, you have to be finding ways of solving them, or at least trying. And if you can't solve them, be open enough to share that with the team. When the feedback givers are criminalized, we talked about that earlier, or judged for their feedback, Candour suffers. When the teams fear to disagree with their colleagues, it means that Candour is suffering. It's not enough. If people are fearing that, like, I don't know if you've been in spaces where a big group agrees with something and one person somehow is on the other side, they don't agree. But usually it takes the bold ones to say, no, I don't agree with what the rest of the teams are doing publicly. Most people will not do that. So when the teams fear to disagree with their colleagues, or to feel like if I say this, then I will have pointed, I will have embarrassed someone, or I'll have pointed out someone. When there is that kind of culture, then Candour is suffering. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, a culture that doesn't have Candour is a dying culture. An organization that doesn't have Candour is a dying organization. Honestly, when you think about it, most of the organizations that have suffered with this aspect, they don't last long. Services start suffering, things start missing. There is a very high turnover, and you can't have much done with that culture. So let's go and build that culture. Let's go and embrace it. Let's go and somehow indirectly reward, not with money, but say thank you to people who are very honest with their feedback, people who are bold enough to share their feedback, and then encourage those who don't share their feedback to always share their feedback. And of course, let's lead by example. That's what I had for us. I think we can take some feedback and then we can close. Anyone has something to say? I can see the chat was very active. Thank you for that feedback.
Yes, Pastor Babra.
Yes, please.
I don't see where to raise my hand from.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for Candour. Sometimes maybe I'll just add a little thing and say sometimes you can be candid in a relationship and you remain single. So the other party is unable to take the candor. And you have the law of unintended consequences take over. And so you're like, hey, whichever chick I tell these truths doesn't come back. So culturally, we've been brought up that way to be to die like a soldier, and you will never have a chance to even bring good suggestions. That would be my 2 cents at the moment.
So I think that the challenge that we have as leaders now is to ask ourselves the question, what is my current state at my organization in terms of candor? How freely are people able to share feedback? And once you define the state, then you can say, okay, how do I then build from here to nurture the culture of candor? At first, like I said, it is going to be difficult because you're countering culture that we have known. But once you stay at it with the few things that I think I shared and others that you learn, you can read more about candor in the book of, in the winning book by Jack. You will be able to get there with time. Yes, Mona, please go ahead, and then Bishop CD.
Hi, thank you very much. You said something there that I think as time goes along, you'll get better at it, or it ceases to be uncomfortable. And I don't think that's the case. I think it necessarily remains a difficult thing to do because, you know, it's not a great thing talking about, pointing out people's shortcomings and that type of thing. However, one just gets the hang of it, or not hang of it, but you prepare appropriately. One prepares appropriately for it, but just to remind us that it doesn't get easy. You know, you prepare for it. You set yourself up and know, well, this morning I have to talk about this matter, so that we are not put off by doing it because I did it 1, 2, 3 times. This thing is not comfortable, I'm leaving it. No, unfortunately, that's the rule of the game. I think if you enjoy being candid and giving people negative feedback, then they might be a problem with you. So just to tell us that it's necessarily not going to be comfortable, but it has to be done. The boil is there. It has to be pressed.
It has to be pressed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mona. Bishop CD and then Esther. Esther will be the last one.
Okay, thank you, Musumba. I think director opened a paper of worms when he talked about relationships and at times how being candid can cost you. And ideally, at the core, even at work, it's relationships with people. And one thing I'm struggling with, and I'd like to speak into as an award-winning author of Hooked also in that capacity, is at times we say candor has to be immediate. But at times I find that speaking immediately does more harm than good, depending on the relationship and the personality. And I would like to draw into the invitation and challenge aspect. Because if you're challenging someone without an invitation, where there's no trust, someone doesn't trust where I'm coming from first, and then I am quick to speak. Are there times where you have to look back and say, I don't have a relationship with this person. As much as I want to say this thing now, should I wait when I can do it better the next day? Or especially in those cases where there's no relationship and the type of people we're dealing with. Some people are very sensitive. Some people will just crumble, and some people will just. So for me, it's that balance. Is there balance in there? Is it one rule that works for everyone? Is it one cloth that fits all?
Not really. I think it has context to it. That aspect of dealing with issues as and when they arise is contextual, of course. Depending on the scenario, I think the idea is that don't postpone things too long when you should have conversations. There are some times when, even when you have a relationship with someone, you've just kept postponing the thing that should have been discussed earlier, and you're just postponing problems. I think it's just context. Of course, definitely, the rule is when you're giving feedback, also how you give it is very important. You don't just say, I must blast away immediately for it to get out of the way. I think it's important how you give the feedback, the person with who you're giving the feedback, but the context really matters, and God gives wisdom to know how to approach it. The invitation and challenge, of course, also has its context. If the house is burning, you won't wait to do the invitation before you can do the challenge. So I think that different contexts call for different measures, but ultimately, even in marriage, you know that the issues that you've postponed so long that should have had, that where I should have had a discussion earlier, you're not even helping, you're just postponing the problem. Does it mean that you will just keep blasting the person away because you have to give immediate feedback? No. Sometimes you have to know when is the right time to give this feedback, how is the right way to give the feedback. But ultimately, it's important that you address issues that need to be addressed early enough. Esther, and then, oh my goodness, Dorcas, you'll be the last one. I said Esther would be the last one, but now Dorcas, you'll be the last one.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Babra. One thing about Candour, especially in organizations, is that it has to be taught. Just like Director Grace said, when we grow up, we don't know anything about Candour. And one company I've seen that practices Candour is Netflix. They say they hire you for your opinion, and something about Candour is that when you're giving Candour, it's not about, for me, I'm open, I'm going to show them. You always aim to assist. And I've seen when we had just started franchising at Vine, I think we just used to give feedback, whether you had someone or not, someone would just give feedback, and you would find even people crying. So at the end of it all, yes, you've given feedback, but then you've not assisted someone. So something about Candour is that you aim to assist someone even when it's negative. You give with an action point, and you give it from a positive side. So in organization, Candour must be taught because people don't know about it. It is taught, it is practiced, and if someone gives feedback in a wrong way, then as leaders, you go back and keep correcting till people learn how to give the right feedback.
Yep. Thank you for that, Esther. Dorcas, please go ahead. Dorcas, are you there? Your hand was up.
You're not hearing me?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean. Hello?
You're breaking.
Can you hear me
yes?
now?
You can try again.
Okay, so I was saying that you touched.
Dorcas, you're still breaking. Could you please try shifting a bit?
The bad network. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I wanted to say that just like in marriage, they say you won't just give feedback in the sitting room. You have to be able to know where is the right place to give this feedback? When is it the right time? How will I give this feedback? So that you're not finding this person and maybe you're addressing the team and it's a big team, and then you're giving the worst feedback because you're nurturing Candour. So you have to also be wise to know when, how, where, and also individuals. I'm a teacher, so they tell us that when you're teaching children, you have to know that children are different. Candour, how Dorcas receives feedback is not the same way maybe CD will receive feedback. So you have to know your people. You have to know the people you work with. How well do they want to be cared for? How well do they want to receive their feedback? Once you understand that, then you'll be able to know how to pass that culture on. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you so much,
Dorcas. Babra, just 1 minute, half a second.
Yes.
Dorcas, in the spirit of Candour, I have a different opinion. You have to set the tone for the organization, and everyone has to know that Jen, who commented this way, we shall not tolerate her view about this in this organization. And so publicly, we're going to say, Jen, this is not how we do it. And you're going to demonstrate that this is how Candour is given. If you go on boxing Candour for everyone, you won't have Candour. If you're going to adjust Candour for everyone, you're going to set the tone and say, whoever doesn't like this, the door is open. My 2 cents.
Exactly. Thank you, Director. I was going to add to what Dorcas had shared and say that there is room for personal engagement, definitely, but there is also room for group engagement. Most organizations have WhatsApp groups where nothing is ever said because people would rather have sidebars than have open communication. I think that it's very important to nurture, especially the kind of Candour where people are able to openly share their experiences, their feedback, their thoughts without feeling like I have to first go to someone's inbox. Is there room for inbox and personal engagement? Awesomely. But much of the Candour that's lacking is the group Candour where people can openly say, you know, this was fake, this you didn't do it. But also Candour, just as I conclude, is not even just about the negative feedback. It's how transparent are people? If someone is not going to come to office, for example, how openly do they share that? If someone is having a sick child, how openly do they share that? If some, like, what's the culture around just openly discussing? Because sometimes you found out that someone was sick after like 4 days. You're like, why couldn't we have known this earlier? Or someone is struggling with something, why couldn't we have known this earlier? So I think, like Director has said, that group engagement where people can openly share what's happening. And I like that we've been nurturing it in Worship Harvest. It's still not easy for many people, but honestly, I think that on the groups where I am, there is, you know, that the engagement, we can't be for only sidebars. At some point, we have to know what's happening as a team, as a group. So that's also very important. Our time is honestly fast spent. But thank you so much for the engagement. Thank you for the feedback. Let's go and build those Candour cultures in the different places, and let's go and grow our businesses. May God bless you. May God cover you. May He shield you today. May He give you more favor with clients, with suppliers, with stakeholders, and wisdom, of course, in all your endeavors. In Jesus' name we've prayed. Amen.